all the honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah, Kodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge Alakiam who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. And Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. And this is Shabai from the GMS Denver camp. And today, through the Spirit, I'm going to go in on Matthew 9. I'm going to start at the 15th chapter. Just kind of going into faith, because as you know, the brothers in the ministry, we know that we gotta have a great amount of faith in these days that we're coming into, because without that faith, it says in the scripture it is impossible to please Yahweh, right? So we know through the Spirit the days we're coming into is going to be required to have that great faith, for even things like spiritual powers, for us to have that hedge of protection around us, it requires great faith. It doesn't just come to anybody, and we know that, the faith is only given to, it's a God-given gift, like they say, right? But it's only given to the elect, you see? So, let me get that one verse I just quoted. Without faith, it is impossible to please him. Right? Let's see. I knew it was in Hebrews. I couldn't remember where. Hebrews 11:6. It says, but without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to the Most High must believe that he is, and he that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. Okay, so that's what we need. It's required faith, right? Matthew 9:15. Now let's read some examples, because the scriptures always has examples of, that we can look back on and read. And it says in the scripture, everything aforetime is written for our learning. And faith is not something that you learn, right? It's something that you either have or you don't have it. And we also know there's different measures of faith within this ministry, So let's just read it. I just wanted to, give you the foundation on what the lesson's about. It says in verse 9, Matthew 9:15, and Yahushua said unto them, can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? Oh, I should have read 14. Then came to him the disciples of John, saying, why do we, the Pharisees, fast oft, as in often, but thy disciples fast not? Because, they were always trying to catch the disciples in Yahushua. They were trying to catch them off guard, or catch them in sin, or catch them just like they do with us, Any occasion that guys like Vocab Malone have to speak and demonize the Hebrew Israelites, they take that occasion. They take full advantage, right? Because their job as an agent provocateur is to try and debunk this knowledge and this truth. But we know through the Spirit that they can't do nothing against this truth, only for the truth, right? It says, and Yahushua said unto them, can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and then shall they fast. Right? And this is talking about, it's a metaphor, parabolically speaking. Yahushua is talking about himself, because he's the bridegroom, and we're the bride of Yahushua, the men who are teaching these scriptures. That's why in Revelation 14 it speaks about the speaks about the virgins, right, who learned the song, right? And we always tell you we're likened unto virgins, and you know, because we're pure in the spirit. And verse 16, it says, no man putteth a piece of new cloth unto an old garment, for that which is put in to fill it up taketh from the garment, and the rent is made worse. Neither do men put new wine into old bottles, else the bottles break, and the wine runneth out, but the bottles perish. But they put new wine into new bottles, and both are preserved. Right. So this is that parable that deals with, you know, this true doctrine, which is the true wine. It's considered new wine because these people are hearing it. You know, it's a newly heard, proclaimed doctrine, because we were taught lies when we first started being raised up in captivity. And so that's why your grandmama or your grandpa or your grandma, you know, your abuelita, they can't receive this truth because that's that old bottles, and you can't put new wine in old bottles, like Yahweh Shai says right here. It's hard to teach some of your grandmamas Yahweh Shai when all their whole life, and they're already in their 70s and 80s, and they're you know, for the first time they're being taught Yahweh Shai. You know, you're gonna have elect members, I'm sure, that are up in age, but if these people are stuck on that cracker Jesus, this is that new wine going into an old bottle. You know, this is that new doctrine, because they're already in their 80s, 70s. It's hard to teach somebody who's like been taught cracker Jesus their whole life, and now you're telling them that the Messiah's true name is Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, the Father and the Son, and that they, you know, it's only the will of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai to let them receive that. Okay, so let's keep reading. While he spake these things unto them, behold, there came a certain ruler and worshipped him, saying, my daughter is even now dead, but come and lay thy hand upon her, and she shall live. And Yahushua arose and followed him, and so did his disciples. And behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him, and touched the hem of his garment. And this shows you that Israelites were in higher positions, right? Because it says here, behold, there came a certain ruler and worshipped him. He had the faith, because you got to understand, only Israelites have, you know, faith that's required to be a part of this truth. No Edomite, no heathen, you know, not even 2/3. A lot of the 2/3, well, all the 2/3 can, you know, have the faith that's required for this truth of ours, right? But this person, he was a ruler, a certain ruler, and worshipped him. So he was in a high position, you know. They don't say exactly what he did, but hey, if you're a ruler, that means you're in a high position. You're ruling over somebody or something. But this just shows you, you know, he had faith in Yahweh Shai. He believed in Yahweh Shai. And this is a huge thing, you know, because we know that the law is not going to save us. We keep it to the best of our ability, but really what's going to save us is our faith in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Okay, it talks about he had that faith. He said, hey, my daughter, you know, my daughter is even now dead, but come and lay thy hand upon her, that she shall live. So for him to have that understanding, or that belief, or that faith, well, guess what? He's going to get rewarded as we keep reading. And that's what it's going to take. You're going to have the true faith. Like if you sit here and discount the Lord's servants, the prophets, or you say, oh, there ain't no more prophets in this world, you know, you're not a man of the Lord, you know. Well, guess what? It shows that you don't have faith. Or for you to even make a statement that, oh, there's no more prophets, you know, only the prophets from the Old Testament, you know. Because the scriptures, we know that the scriptures, it tells you, Wisdom of Solomon 7 and 27, that the prophets are in all ages. It says, and being but one, it's talking about wisdom, she can do all things, and remaining in herself, she maketh all things new. And in all ages, entering into holy souls, she maketh them friends of the Most High and prophets. All right? So the wisdom that enters into our soul, and by the way, we have holy souls, meaning we're separate. You know, the true prophets of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai were separate from the majority of, the world. And it's what makes us holy. That's what that word literally means, holy. It means separate. But it says right here, in all ages, wisdom enters into holy souls, which are the prophets. See? So you can't say, oh, well, there's no prophets anymore. No, man. The prophets are on the scene right now. Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is having mercy on his elect by giving them his mouth, the prophets. Okay? Matthew 9 and... and if you're not of the elect, you're not going to have that type of faith. Because we read about examples in the scriptures of people that had that type of faith, and we read examples also on the other side, which people that lacked the faith. And matter of fact, when there's no faith, there's no miracles that can be done in that place. So that's why I started out this lesson. We got to have that faith. We got to have it without doubting. The scripture speaks about having faith without having an ounce of doubt. It doesn't say ounce of doubt, but it says you can't doubt while you're in your faith. Because if you doubt, then you don't have enough faith, man. You don't have the measure of faith like spiritual powers. You want to have spiritual powers? Well, you better have the faith that it is required for you to be able to have those spiritual powers. See? Let me see. I was going to get a precept, but I can't remember. But anyway, I'm going to keep reading because I'm over here at the plantation. It says Matthew 9 and let me read 20 again. It says, and behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him and touched the hem of his garment. For she said within herself, if I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole. You see that? So this woman, that's the kind of faith she had. The one that her dad was the ruler, right? A ruler of people. And he said, hey, come and lay your hand on my daughter, just because he believed, he had faith. He knew, he wasn't like these people that say, come across to the camps and say, oh, y'all ain't the prophets of the Lord. You guys aren't the men of the Lord. You know what I mean? Because we have that. We have people, we even have our family members. A lot of our family members don't believe we're the prophets, Like I was dealing with my sister, one of my sisters, and this weekend I saw her. I haven't seen her in a while. And I was telling, we talked about something, but the point being is, something happened to her. And I said, oh, Yahweh, he must have wanted you to understand something or go through something for him to do that to you, right? And right away she's like, oh, well, I don't know. Maybe, whatever you say. No, I don't think so, though. She didn't really have faith. She doubted what I was telling her. And she's always, I probably shouldn't even have brought it up to her because, like I said, I haven't seen her in a long time. But the thing is she really don't have that faith that's required just by the way she answered me. Because I told her, look, this is my profession. Like, when she's telling me about something she's a professional in, I'm not going to doubt if, whatever that is. But if you're among the men of the Lord, you should humble down and maybe just listen sometimes. We believe through the Spirit and through faith that we are the men of the Lord. And if the Spirit's dealing with us, then guess what? It's probably wise of you to listen. If you don't listen, guess what? You're going to be part of that destruction. And like this woman here in Matthew 9, she literally, and she didn't even say it out loud. She said it within herself, the scriptures say. She said, if I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole. She said that to herself, like in her mind. And, think about that. I know brothers can relate to stuff like this because we be doing things like this, But that's how much faith she had. She didn't doubt. She said it within herself. She didn't say it out loud, but she just in her head. She was like, if I may touch his garment, I shall be whole. That's a beautiful display of faith, an example of faith in the scriptures. And, everything in the scriptures is written aforetime before our learning. And that's a Yapa example, right? Yapa being beautiful in the Hebrew. It says in verse 22, but Yahushua turned him about, and when he saw her, he said, daughter, be of good comfort. Thy faith had made thee whole. So that's Yahushua we're reading about. So he's going to know when someone has faith just through the Spirit. Even though she didn't say it out loud, he knew what she had basically said in her own mind, She had that faith, and the woman was made whole from that hour. You see, and that's a miracle. She was made whole just simply because of her faith, and she didn't lack faith. Now, how many of you can say that you've been in a predicament like that, where you haven't lacked no faith? You may have prayed to Yahweh Shem Yoshai. You may not even have said it out loud with your mouth, but you prayed for something, and all of a sudden, that prayer was answered. And it's only going to happen for the elect. You other people that are, calling on different names outside of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, man, those are not. You're not getting blessed. Your prayers are not cracking the clouds. Don't get it twisted. You have to have faith in the true powers Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. You can't just say, "Oh, I have faith in God," or I'll put all my faith in Cracker Jesus. No, we know through the Spirit that ain't right. It says in verse 23, and when Yahushua came into the ruler's house, he saw the minstrels and the people making a noise. And he said unto them, give place, for the maid is not dead, but sleepeth. And they laughed him to scorn. They laugh at us. We tell them that we're the men of the Lord. We tell them what's required. We tell them about the chariots. We tell them about the whole truth. And they laugh at us, or they'll mock us because they don't have the faith. But when the people were put forth, he went in and took her by the hand, and the maid arose. And the fame hereof went abroad into all that land. Right. And really, it's not something that we're doing this truth. We're definitely not doing this truth to become famous or to become celebrities. But it comes with the territory. You know what I'm saying? Like it comes with the territory. Like Elder Apostle Tahar, Elder Apostle Gabar, Elder Apostle Aramlab, Elder Apostle Rakar. Those men, they have fame throughout the world. And it's not because they're like, oh, I want to become famous, or I'm trying to be famous. But no, they're known. That's what fame means. It means to be well known among people. And they're known among people because the Lord had set it up that way. There are men and women and fucking all over the world that know the elders. And why is that? Because the Lord set it up that way. You compare your views to Elder Apostle Tahar's views. Or you compare your views on your channel. And it ain't about views, but I'm just giving you the example of fame that comes with this territory. Even brothers, brothers who are just in the camps, random different camps, guess what? People are going to recognize you. It's the internet. That's what literally that word fame, it just means to be known. So let's keep reading. 27, and when Yahushua departed thence, 2 blind men followed him, crying and saying, Thou son of David, have mercy on us. And when he was come into the house, the blind men came to him, and Yahushua saith unto them, Believe ye that I am able to do this? They said unto him, Yea, Lord. Then touched he their eyes, saying, According to your faith, be it unto you. So he didn't just, he left it in their faith. That was what was going to heal them. So let's say if one of these dudes didn't have faith, guess what? He wasn't going to be healed. That's why he said, according to your faith, be it unto you. So that's how it is for us. It's according to our faith what's going to happen. You know, whether you go up in a chariot, if you doubt that the chariots or miracles can't happen, or you don't believe a chariot will actually bring you salvation, you know. Elder Apostle Gabar, he just did that lesson on the strangeness of our salvation, which is dealing with going up in a chariot. If you believe that's a strange thing and you don't believe that that's going to happen, then guess what? You ain't going to go up in a chariot. If you're calling on a cracker Jesus, or you're calling Yahweh God and not Yahweh, guess what? You don't have faith that's required to go up in a chariot. There's people who don't even believe in the chariots. So how are you going to go up in a chariot if you don't even believe in the chariots? That those are the chariots of Yahweh. You see? Verse 30, and their eyes were open, and Yahushua straightly charged them, saying, see that no man know it. Right? So Yahushua, it wasn't like he was trying to be all famous. Just like the elders, just like us. We don't sit there and try to become famous or try to become go on someone's discussion and debate platform and trying to get fame. No, if anything, it's the opposite. Matter of fact, we changed locations this past week at camp, because we had too much commotion. Because at the end of the day, we're experienced enough to we know that we just want to teach the scriptures to the elect, who are watching on YouTube, and so be it the elect that pass by. If that's the Lord's will, if Yahweh's will is to send the elect, the members of the elect to the camp, then that's His will. But we moved locations because we had a lot of commotion that disturbed church last 2 weeks ago. So this past weekend, we went to a different location. And this is what our elders did. It was through the Spirit. So did they. And if we were looking for fame, we would have just stuck in the right spot. We're trying to get views, trying to have more commotion, trying to have more people, you know what I mean? But that ain't what it's about. We're not here because we want to, our numbers and our views to be up. No, we're doing the work of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Verse 31, but when they were departed, and Yahushua, what did he tell them? See that no man know it. Meaning, he was basically telling them, look, don't tell nobody I did this for you. We don't sit there and tell people, oh, hey, here's some flyers. Hand these out to people that you know, because we taught you something in the scripture today. No, we don't have that attitude. We don't bring flyers like the pagan Christians or these different groups that are trying to promote their so-called churches. We don't do that shit, man. It says, but they, when they were departed, spread abroad his fame in all that country. All right, Kal Halal Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. It's 441. It's that 144. We take it any way, any order we can get it. But so the thing is we're gonna have, we're gonna be known just because, that we're out there, doing the Lord's work. And in time, we know that, hey, this is what it is. This is the things that happen. This comes with the territory. But I can guarantee you, the brothers that are sincere in this knowledge and this truth, we're not looking for no fame, It says in verse 32, as they went out, behold, they brought him to a dumb man possessed with a devil. And dumb means you're unable to speak. And when the devil was cast out, the dumb spake. And the multitudes marveled, saying it was never so seen in Israel. Right. So there's going to be miracles that are going to be performed even with us when we start to come into our spiritual powers, which we have a spiritual power by understanding this knowledge and this truth. Don't get it twisted. And having the faith that's required. There's a measure of faith that's given to certain men. And some of us men have this measure of faith that is, required for these miracles to be done. Oh yeah, that brings back to the point the precept I wanted earlier, but it had slipped my mind. See, it always comes back. Yeah, Matthew 13. All the way down to 58. This is what I was going to bring out earlier, but it came back through the Spirit. It says, well, I'll start at 57. It says, and they were offended in him, right? Because this truth is offensive to the majority of the world. But Yahushua said unto them, a prophet is not without honor, save in his own country and in his own house. And he did not many mighty works there because of their unbelief. Right. So there's not going to be no miracles or mighty works done when there's a lack of faith present. You know? If you lack faith, there's not going to be no miracles. You're not going to go up in a chariot. You're not going to, you're not going to be healed. You're not going to even see the knowledge, the truth. You ain't going to be able to receive it because you lack faith in the true doctrine. You want to hang on to all the lies you've been taught. And then when the true prophets are on the scene, your mind is seared with like a hot iron, like the scripture speaks about, and you can't receive the truth because your brain is clogged. Your brain is too busy being clogged with bullshit that you've been taught. We always tell you, this truth is only for the elect. All right? And the elect are the only ones who the miracles are going to be performed on, and you're going to receive, this knowledge, receive this truth. That's reserved only for the chosen, which are the elect. Not even all of Israel is going to have this type of blessing, And then where am I at? Let's see. Verse 34. It says, but the Pharisees said, he casted out devils through the prince of the devils. And Yahushua went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom and healing every sickness and every disease among the people. Right, he was doing that twofold. Right, he was healing these actually sick people who had actual diseases. But actually, you got to remember, when you're in another doctrine, another philosophy, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai look at it like you're sick in the head. That tells you that in Isaiah 1 and, is it 5? Yeah, Isaiah 1 and 5. Why should ye be stricken any more? Ye will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick, and the whole heart faint. And the whole heart is faint. Right? So, the whole heart is faint. The whole head is sick. As in what? Sick in the head. Because if you're in a wrong doctrine, you calling on the wrong names, then you don't have faith. Your faith has to be towards Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. It can't be toward any other God. That's a violation of the first commandment. And this is plain to see for the elect. But if you're stuck on stupid, you're going to be sitting here, oh, well, he has many names. The Most High has many names. His Son has many names. Or you can call on any name you want. No, that ain't what it is. That's not what it is. You lack faith. You lack understanding first. And then, more importantly, you lack faith. And you're sick. You're sick in the head. Okay. Verse 36. When he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion on them because they fainted and were scattered abroad as sheep having no shepherd. And that's by nature, we're compassionate people, Let me grab that word compassion real quick. Compassion definition. Right? Sympathetic, pity, and concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others. And that's kind of by nature how the Israelites are. We're compassionate people. That's why you see our people, they be so compassionate, they even feel sorry for Esau, man. You can't be that fucking compassionate, When you know the truth, you know that, hey, there's limits on this. You don't have compassion on Esau Edom, the wicked that the Bible speaks of. Or even the 2/3. Watch, it says, compassion is a profound feeling of sympathy and concern for another's suffering, coupled with a desire to alleviate that suffering. And that's how Yahweh Shai was. He saw the Israelites and he saw the state of his people. And it was like, you have sympathy. You feel bad sometimes. Even as in, one of the servants of the Lord, Lord's will, I'm in the number. Hey, man, I see some things happen in Israel and you be just like, damn. You just start getting your thoughts. You're like, damn, I wish our people weren't so destroyed like this. That's why it says he marveled, right? But guess what? Our people, they have no shepherd. And but the Lord set up shepherds, which the head shepherd is Yahweh Shai. But, you got us who are like, we're basically, his little bros, right? The Akyam, who are in this knowledge and this truth, who are, declaring the truth on the street corners. We're the models. Well, he's the model. We're the replicas, right? We're replicated in the spirit. We're on one accord with Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. So, and hence we're the shepherds. A shepherd is someone who gathers the elect. A shepherd is somebody who takes care of the sheep, who looks after the sheep. And you're not going to have that ability to even take care of the sheep unless you have the faith. Right? Like that one verse that talks about the hireling, he careth not for the sheep. I'll grab that. Because you got to have faith to even have compassion towards the sheep. Let me see this. The hireling. Let's see. It's going to be in John 10. 10 and 13, it says, the hireling fleeth because he is an hireling and careth not for the sheep. I am the good shepherd and know my sheep and am known of mine. That's Yahweh Shai speaking, right? So we're like, we're the replicas of Yahweh Shai through the spirit. So we're in the same spirit. We got to be looking, we have to have compassion towards the sheep. We can't just be discounting somebody, without giving them a chance, and hey, maybe that person is of the elect. They may not look like an Israelite, but maybe they have the spirit to receive this truth. So guess what? It's our duty to listen and let be the discerner of spirits by the Spirit, and test the spirits by the Spirit, by the Holy Spirit. If you're not doing that, you're not having compassion on the sheep, But yeah, if somebody's showing you that they're not of the elect in the spirit, the way they act, or they're scoffing or mocking, then yeah, fuck them. They're not of the elect. You ain't got to worry about them. It says right here, look at this. Verse 15, as the Father knoweth me, even so know I the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And the other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Right, the elect. Well, actually, let me read that again. And the other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Well, if you hearken unto the voice of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, which the voice is the scriptures, and right now it's his prophets, that's his mouth, that's Yahweh's mouth. We're his mouth, who are his servants, the prophets. If you're able to hearken and listen and receive this knowledge and this truth, then guess what? You're of that fold. But if you're not of the fold, then guess what? You're gonna die in your unfaithfulness, in your lack of faith. All right, Matthew 9. 30. It says, well, let me read that one more time. But when he saw the multitudes, he was moved with compassion on them, because they fainted and were scattered abroad as sheep having no shepherd. Right, and that's where these people have been for the majority of their lives. They haven't had a shepherd who was with true guidance, No, it says, that's why we read, the whole head is sick and the heart is faint. Like, they've had the leadership of our people has been sick in the head. Like, you got an example as MLK, Martin Luther King. All he was doing was pushing the pagan Christianity that we know is not the truth. Right? He wanted little black boys and little white girls to join hands, and so on and so forth. But we know, this is a Israelite thing. You see? You also had, guys like Farrakhan, right? He sounds profound. He sounds deep. He sounds good when he speaks. He's a good orator. But guess what? He's not pushing the true doctrine. So he's even the followers of the guy like that, they call him Minister Farrakhan, Louis Farrakhan. Guess what? If you're following and you believe everything he says, then you're not of the elect. You're not of that fold, because you're not in the right spirit. Verse 37, then saith he unto his disciples, the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Right. So the harvest is plenteous, man. I mean, there's a ton of people that need to hear this knowledge, to hear this truth. But the laborers, not so much. We're not plenteous. The 144,000 compared to the population of the earth, I think last time I did the numbers, when I looked it up, it was like 8 billion people on the planet Earth, compared to 144,000 is like a 0.000004 something. It's way less than 1% is what I'm saying. The laborers are few. Right? The ones who are doing the work of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai are it's not a big number. Especially with sound doctrine. Verse 38, pray ye therefore Yahweh of the harvest, that he will send forth laborers into his harvest. Right? And so that's the fulfillment we have right now. We are those laborers. We're the men who are laboring for this knowledge, for this truth. And we're here to preach the true doctrine, and that's why the doctrine is dropping like rain, Deuteronomy 32:2. My doctrine shall drop as the rain, my speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass. Right? And then I'll grab this and close out on this, because the truth is coming out, right? It's all on the internet. It's all on the street corners. There's no excuses for you Israelites who don't want to be in the fold of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. You don't have an excuse. You're not going to be dismissed, Let me see. Actually, I think it's 14, maybe 24. No, 14. It's and this is Yahushua speaking, Matthew 24:14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. So here we are, all over the internet, all over the street corners and the highways and the hedges and the chief place of concourse. Wisdom crieth out in the streets and on the internet, and that's why the end is coming. All right, but if you don't have faith, it's not going to be a good ending for you. You got to have faith. So, I think the point's been made. I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakakodash. Double honors goes out to the other apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge all the Akim who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom to the elect.